the day 5th of Navaratris. So, the theme of today's meditation will be I accept myself and I accept everybody and every situation. I want you all to close your eyes by crossing your hands, fingers into fingers, by crossing your legs, by gently closing your eyes. Make each and every part of your body as relaxed, as comfortable as possible. In this space of relaxedness in your body, now try to relax your mind by letting go of all the thoughts, unwanted thoughts. Clear your mind as much as possible. Do not think about anything. Right now, nothing is important. The only important thing is to be with yourself. Just travel within yourself after you emptied your mind. Connect with yourself. Ask yourself, communicate with yourself. Hey self, have I ever abandoned you? Yourself is always communicating only when you calm your mind. It gives you all the answers. When it says yes, then please convey a message to yourself saying that I accept you. I drop all my judgments about you. You say, I accept you. Once you have said this, it's as if hugging yourself completely, a big hug to your own self, dropping all the judgments, all the limitations that you have created for yourself. What a beautiful feeling it is when you hug your own self. Such a relief it is. Once you have done that, now let us accept our partners, our friends, our closest family, accept everybody. If they have done something to you, forgive them and accept them. Each and every person that you have met in your life is a part of you. You've been carrying that person in your heart. Instead of fighting with that person in your heart, let us accept that person. Accept everything. Accept every being, living being, non living being. We're all divine beings. The quality of the divine is to accept everything. With this acceptance, now let us once again go into ourselves to charge ourselves, to fill ourselves with lots and lots of energy. With that energy, we will direct it to accept everything, whatever is happening in our life, accepting everyone, whomever we are meeting, and most importantly, accepting ourselves. That is a beautiful constructive way, friends, to direct our energy. Just be with yourself. By becoming one with your breath. Natural breath, soft breath, tender, tranquil breath. Last 2 minutes, friends. Bring back your awareness to your physical body. Last 1 minute. This last 30 seconds. Let us all make a promise to ourselves that come what may, I accept myself, I accept everybody, I accept every situation, including I accept all the teachings from each and every master. May it be a child, may it be an old person, may it be a stranger. We accept and we grow. Don't resist, friends. Life is really beautiful, and acceptance is the key. Last 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now slowly place your both hands over your eyes for a few seconds. Whenever you're ready, you may open your eyes and take off your hands. Welcome back, friends. I hope you all had a beautiful session. There is anybody who wish to share their experience before we enter into the untold story of Sita? You can go ahead and share your experience. Okay, there are two announcements before we go into this part of the storytelling. That day after tomorrow at this time, we will be having, which is on Friday, we will be having Master Sharu from India. She will be saying about the importance of this Navaratri. What is the spiritual meaning behind this whole event? So please do join us and convey this message to your friends as well. And she will be guiding us into a meditation by giving the explanation to the whole essence of why we celebrate Navaratri. And we will be also having the Untold Story of Sita session afterwards, after she finishes her guidance. And on Saturday at 9 a.m. Germany time, which is like 12:30 p.m. India time, we will be having Master Akash from India. He will be last Saturday, he had spoken about the ascended masters and the teachings of the ascended masters. So today, on Saturday, he will be doing the second part. And if that interests you, please do join us. It will be on the same link. Yeah, these are the two announcements. Yeah, thank you, Sahar. It's good to have you, Sahar. Yeah. Anybody else, friends, would like to share, or shall we go ahead with the story? All right. So once again, close your eyes. So yesterday we have heard about the teachings of Lavakush, the education of Lavakush, which Sitama had given. So now we will know what is the unseen work of Mata Sita. One day, not long after this, a very strange incident took place. As soon as I came into her cottage that morning, I sensed a rare uneasiness in Mata that overshadowed the joy that normally exuded from her being. She seemed disturbed by something, but I couldn't identify any cause. Love and Kush were fine. Our food was plentiful. Mata seemed perfectly healthy. Nothing seemed amiss. I watched her during the day. At one point, I asked if anything was wrong. She looked at me and nodded, but only replied, "It will reveal itself." The day passed. Periodically, she would look out the door and glance toward the forest, as if she were expecting someone. I thought perhaps she was missing Sri Ram and was silently hoping for his arrival. But it was another arrival she was awaiting. The next morning found a tigress lying at the gate to our cottage. As soon as she saw Mata by the doorway, the great beast lifted her head and let out an agonizing cry, which frightened the children. Mata looked at her for a few minutes and, shaking her head, she slowly closed the door. All day and all night, the tigress lay there, periodically emitting a cry. Finally, I could not stand it. Perhaps she is wounded, I suggested, knowing full well that if that were the case, Mata would have certainly attended to her. She is wounded, but in the heart, not in the body, Mata replied. Do you know what the problem is? Mata nodded. I will go to her, but not just yet. She must realize her grave mistake. The second day and night passed, and still the tigress did not move. On the third morning, Mata went to her. I watched from the doorway as Mata knelt in front of her, and I saw the tigress place her head on Mata's lap. Mata stroked her head and began to speak to her. What you did was wrong, said Mata, lifting the tigress's head and looking directly into her eyes. Now take your cubs and go deep into the forest and stay away from human habitats. They will hunt you now, so go quickly deep into the forest. As Mata spoke these words, three cubs emerged from the edge of the forest, where they had been hiding behind some trees. They approached Mata, and she blessed them that they would be safe. When they were gone, I asked Mata to explain. She sighed and said, a hunter killed the eldest of her cubs, and in a fit of anger, she went into a village and killed a little boy. Now, the villagers are hunting for her. Thus begins the war between man and nature, she said sadly. Then added, I must go find that family, Soma. Let us cook. She went to kitchen area and began to prepare a large pot of food. All the while she kept repeating the words, I must have Hanuman with me, I must have Hanuman and the chariot. Throughout the morning, as we prepared food, she repeated that refrain. By early afternoon, I saw the chariot drive up and out stepped Hanuman. He greeted us as if nothing were out of the ordinary. But Mata exclaimed, thank goodness you have come. Now let me dress and we will go. I heard your call, Mata, but where are we going? He asked. We will see. She rushed into the cottage, and I saw her dig out her royal clothes from a wooden chest in her room. Helping her dress, I asked what this was about. It will be more meaningful to them if they see their Rani. More meaningful to whom? I was perplexed, wondering if she was going to Ayodhya. She didn't answer, but rather directed me to load the food onto the chariot. She told me to stay with the children, and she and Hanuman took off. The rest of the story I heard from Hanuman after their return. They had ridden from one village to the next until Mata finally said, I think this is the one. When they got down from the chariot, they found a village in mourning. She asked Hanuman to bring the food, and they went from hut to hut until she found the weeping mother. Mata whispered to Hanuman, a hunter had killed the cub of a tigress, and in her anger, the tigress killed the woman's child. Now the village men are hunting the tigress. I must stop them. Mata stood at the doorway of the hut, waiting to be invited in. Hanuman described to me the pain on Mata's face as she saw the agony of the mother, who was calling out to her small son who had been killed. When her husband saw that it was the Maharani who was standing at their door, he quickly touched Mata's feet and begged her forgiveness. We have just lost our young son, he said. Please forgive us for not being able to receive you properly, Maharani. I heard about the incident and have brought you some food, she replied. Please let me tend to your wife. He invited her and Hanuman to enter. Hanuman brought the food to Mata, who laid it out before the weeping mother. When she realized it was the Maharani who stood before her, she wiped her tears and exclaimed, Forgive me for not receiving you as I should. Mata looked at her with compassion and quietly spoke to her. Nothing I can say can ease your pain. I'm also a mother, and so I know the deep wound in your heart. But please, let me offer you this food that I have cooked with my own hands. It will bring you some relief. Mata had put special herbs into the food to calm the emotions. She laid out the food and the woman ate. As Mata watched, she saw the woman was weary from lack of sleep. After finishing her meal, she lay down beside Mata and fell asleep. I don't know what you have done, but I am ever grateful, said her husband. She has not eaten or slept at all since he was killed 4 days ago. He was the youngest of our three children and the only son. He was the most dear to her. Mata shook her head in sorrow when she heard those words. Then he asked, Where will you spend the night, Maharani? Mata hadn't thought of that. They were far from the hermitage and night had fallen. She looked at Hanuman to see whether they could manage to get home, but he shook his head. It is better we wait until daybreak, he whispered in answer to the question she did not voice. With your permission, I will make arrangements for your stay with the village chief, the man hurried to say. We have only come to comfort you, replied Mata in a gentle voice. No need to worry about our accommodations, but I hesitate to leave your wife in her condition. Yes, we will spend the night so I can speak with her when she awakes. Mata glanced at the door and saw that the villagers were peering in. They had all come to see the Maharani. She walked out the door, and the villagers scrambled to allow her to pass. One by one, they bowed and touched her feet. How gentle and respectful they are, whispered Mata to Hanuman. We will find the tigress and kill her, shouted a man from behind, thinking perhaps this would please the Maharani. Mata stopped and turned to see who had spoken. She saw standing amid the crowd a man who looked like one of the village elders. She shook her head and said, If you do, more violence will follow. You must end this killing now. The crowd fell silent. But Maharani, if we do not kill that vicious animal, she will kill again. I met the tigress, Mata said. A hunter had killed her cub, and in anger she retaliated. But in that process, she killed an innocent boy. I have sent her deep into the forest. She will not kill again. Let her be. You both have suffered. The man did not respond, and Mata and Hanuman proceeded to find a place to spend the night. At daybreak, Mata roused herself from her semi sleep and stepped outside, where she saw the village elders led by the man who had spoken out the night before. They were ready to go in search of the tigress. Mata approached them and once more pleaded with them to abandon their hunt, but the men insisted. Please forgive us, Maharani, but you know what we have suffered. We cannot risk losing another child in this village. As Mata stood there wondering what more she could say, she saw the village women emerge from their huts and encircle the men. What is this? Asked one of the elders. Our Maharani has come all the way to comfort us. We will not allow you to disregard her pleas. We will not let you leave her. Neither side would move, neither the men nor the women. Suddenly, Mata saw the mother of the deceased boy emerge from her hut. She walked as if in a dream until she reached Mata and fell at her feet. Mata gently lifted her and asked in a whisper, "You have seen him, have you not? Your son came to you last night in a dream, did he not?" She nodded. "What did he say? Tell all the village what your beautiful son said to you." "He asked me not to cry any more, and he asked me not to kill the tigress. He said she too has lost her child." Tears filled her eyes as she spoke. No one said a word. Finally, she turned to the elders and pleaded, "Please do not disobey the Maharani. It is for the sake of my son that I ask this." The group slowly disbanded, returning to their own huts. But as they left, Mata said to the hunters, "To keep peace in this forest, take no more than is needed for your sustenance. It is not we who are transgressing, Maharani," said the village chief to her. "It is the people from the city, from Ayodhya, who are coming into the forest now, hunting not for the food, but for pleasure. And we are reaping the results. We do not know how to stop them." A look of surprise and concern crossed Mata's face. This was a new development, one that she had not heard before. "I will see what can be done," she said. Before taking her leave, Mata embraced the mother and said to her, "In a few years, you will have another son. He cannot replace the one you have lost because each child is an irreplaceable treasure, but he will bring joy back into your life. The son you have lost must now continue his journey to a new birth. Your tears will hold him back, but your love will help him proceed. Send him love unceasingly." That is the role of the mother, to help the child along his or her journey. The woman nodded and profusely thanked Mata. Then Mata and Hanuman took their leave. Before getting into the chariot, Hanuman asked Mata, "You found that boy in the celestial world, didn't you? He was lost, unable to return to life and unable to move forward, held back by his mother's tears. I asked him to go to her and ease her pain. Then he would be free to proceed. I also asked him if he would protect the tigress who had killed him. He agreed. He is a wise soul who will have a good birth." There was an air of silence around Mata when she returned, and so I knew not to ask any questions. There was an uneasy feeling in the air that evening as she fed the children and asked me to take them to bed. There would be no story that night. She seemed preoccupied. When I awoke in the morning, I went to her cottage to find her gone. Hanuman was seated by the gate. I hurried to him and asked if he has seen Mata. He pointed to the forest, where I saw her seated by a tree in meditation. "When did she come out?" I asked. "In the middle of the night. I was sleeping outside when I saw her leave her cottage and walk into the forest. I decided to stay up and keep watch over her." "What happened yesterday, Hanuman?" She seemed so preoccupied when she returned. That is when Hanuman told me what had passed. She hardly spoke on the way home, only to say that she saw what lay ahead. He said, after he had recounted the events of the previous day, she said the separation between man and the rest of the natural world would increase to such an extent that many life forms would be endangered. She saw this. She saw destruction and pain ahead. He added, "Take care of what you need to, Soma. I will stay here and keep watch until she emerges from meditation." Mata stayed in meditation for days. I began to feel concerned and finally asked Hanuman if he should go to Ayodhya to let Sri Ram know her state. "He is already with her," he replied simply. "What do you mean? Has he come?" I glanced around for a sign of Sri Ram. Hanuman smiled. "I saw him come the first night, not long after she went into meditation." I don't know whether it was he who called out to her or she who called to him, but I saw him walk up to her and take her hand and lift her out of her body. I saw them both walk into the forest. When I went to follow, Mata turned and asked me to stay. I knew then where they were going. They are traveling the earth together, blessing every part of it, journeying through the lands they walked together during the exile, as well as foreign ones in distant parts of the earth. There is not a field of forest, valley, or river, ocean, or mountain on earth that will not have the blessing of knowing the footprints of Sri Ram and Mata Sita. They are embedding their love into every particle of the earth. That is the gift they are leaving. I believe it is because Mata sees what lies ahead. A look of such great love and devotion came over Hanuman's eyes as he spoke. And I know that when they leave this earth, I will follow those footsteps wherever they will take me. And I will bow down before each and every imprint they are leaving on the body of Vasundarama. But I didn't understand Hanuman. But I don't understand Hanuman, I murmured. Mata is seated there. How can she be circling the earth? He smiled. In Ayodhya, Sri Ram is locked away in his room in meditation, and yet I saw them both in their physical bodies take their leave. That is the mystery of Sri Ram and Mata Sita. They are not confined to their physical forms. They can assume multiple forms at once if need be. As Hanuman spoke, I looked up at the darkening sky, which threatened a downpour. The dry season was still upon us, and we were awaiting the rains as the land was parched. Hanuman saw the advent of rain, and I heard him murmur, "No, Lord Indra, you will not harm the body of Mata." Almost immediately the clouds dispersed. Hanuman, the animals and plants have been waiting long for this water. Mata would not like us to delay it. What should we do? I asked. He nodded. You are right, Soma. She would not want any interference with the course of nature. I will take care of it. Soon the rains came in great downpour, but to my amazement, Mata and the ground around her remained completely dry. No water touched her body. It was then that I came to know the great powers of Hanuman. I don't remember how many days passed before Mata returned to waking consciousness. But when she finally did, a beautiful glow graced her form. Each day I had been placing water and a basket of fruits before her, and every evening I saw the animals come and enjoy the offering. I smiled to think how pleased Mata would be, but I also was worried for her health. When she finally rose from her meditation spot and walked toward the hut, I saw that her body exuded great strength, as if she had been eating and drinking all along. She did not seem weakened in the slightest by her days of abstinence. Mata, I exclaimed when I saw her. Let me prepare some food for you. She smiled. I have eaten well. When she saw the confused expression on my face, she added, whatever, wherever we have gone, people have offered food. Such interesting, exotic dishes. We have tasted food from all parts of the world. Such generosity and goodwill, and such care for the forest, for the animals and plant life. Now I know there will always be those who have unbounded love for the earth, who will always care for and protect the life here. She didn't bother to explain. Perhaps she knew that Hanuman had already told me about their excursions. She asked about the children, and soon everything was back to normal after Mata's journey around the earth. Some weeks later, Sri Ram arrived. Over the evening meal, he expressed his gratitude to Mata for visiting the family of the little boy who was killed by the tigress. Word had spread throughout the kingdom. Every citizen must feel that he or she is cared for, that their concerns are our concerns. When you set this example, Sita, You gave a wonderful gift to that mother, and there could be no better service than helping to heal a mother who has lost a child. But something must be done, replied Sita thoughtfully. It was a hunter from Ayodhya who set this whole series of events in motion, senselessly killing a young tiger cub. First, he tried to capture it, and when he couldn't, he killed the poor cub. The killing was not for the food, but for pleasure, to assert power over the animal kingdom. That is not the way to maintain harmony between man and nature. You are right, he mused. As a result of Ayodhya's growing power, some people are beginning to overstep their bounds and disregard the laws of nature. Hunting will now be restricted to the forest communities who know to take only what is needed. Every village will need to keep a part of the forest that is for the animals only, where humans cannot enter. We must now establish regulations to balance man's needs with the needs of other life forms. Another incident occurred a year or so after that, which made Mata's presence unknown to the people of Ayodhya. Love and Kush were now spending more time studying at the hermitage, which freed up our time considerably. One afternoon, as Mata returned from gathering medicinal plants from the forest, one of the teachers from the hermitage came running up the path to our cottage, out of breath, with a look of fright on his face. He explained that a chariot carrying the wife and a daughter of a family very close to the Guru had been on its way to the hermitage to seek the Guru's blessing for the upcoming marriage of the daughter. The chariot had been waylaid by robbers who killed the guards and harmed the daughter. Mother and daughter both had taken a bad fall and were unconscious. Guruji will be furious when he returns and discovers this, the teacher exclaimed. Where are they? Bring them to me right away, insisted Mata. Mother and daughter were soon carried into a cottage. The daughter's clothing was ripped and she was bleeding badly. Her breathing was shallow and irregular, leading me to fear she might not live. Once we were alone, Mata examined them both, and said, the mother is all right, but the daughter is badly wounded. She has been violated multiple times. Mata shook her head. Bring me the basket of medicines. Fortunately, I gathered today just what I need. I proceeded to clean the girl while Mata prepared the herbal mixture. For hours, she rubbed the herbs on her womb area, while I tried to get some of the liquid into her mouth. That night, Mata sent me off to care for the children while she sat watch over the daughter. After I had put them to bed, I returned and found her seated by the girl's side in meditation, uttering mantras in a barely audible voice. This went on for hours. I continued to rub the girl's womb with the herbal remedies. I must have fallen asleep, but I was called back to the world by a commotion outside. It was early morning. I found Mata bending over the girl, checking her breathing. She's coming back to life, Mata remarked with a slight smile. Her breathing has returned to normal. The commotion outside grew louder. Mata looked up with a strange expression on her face, and then she shouted a resounding, Nai! Before I knew what was happening, she was gone, like a streak of lightning, like the shadow of the wind. She was one moment seated beside the girl in our cottage, and the next moment outside. I ran to the door and saw her standing in front of two men who had been thrown to the ground, as if shielding them. Guruji stood before her with raised hand, about to utter a curse. I heard Mata's voice, but it did not seem to come from her physical body. The voice seemed to come from the sky, the earth, the trees, from every living being. It shouted, Nai, Nai. This is the end of the time of curses. I saw Guruji standing there, frozen, as if paralyzed. And I saw that Sriram was just arriving. After a few moments, Guruji lowered his arm. Before I knew it, Mata was back in the cottage, standing by the widow, with her back towards me. Her whole body was trembling, vibrating with great force. I could not even approach her, such was the power emanating from her body. About 30 minutes later, Sriram approached the cottage. I didn't know whether to leave or stay, as I didn't understand what was happening. But I felt I needed to continue to tend to the young girl, so I stayed by her side. Sri Ram stood for a few minutes in the doorway. Mata didn't look up. She didn't greet him. Whatever had just occurred disturbed her terribly. Her body was still trembling, as if currents of lightning were passing through her. It was the Shakti she had invoked. How are the mother and daughter? Shriram asked in a sober tone. The mother is unharmed, but a bruise on her head. The daughter was badly wounded, but will recover, I replied. He went over to Mata and placed his hand on her shoulder. As soon as he touched her, trembling ceased. Those two men have been banished for killing the gods and for the theft. No mention has been made of the violence against the young girl. Mata turned to look at him. I could see the struggle on her face. He continued. What you did was right. Early on, curses were necessary for the enactment of the law of cause and effect for the sake of justice. But you are right, Sita. The time for curses has passed. Too many have been issued out of anger, not for the sake of justice. The girl has been violated multiple times, Sita said quietly. But she will have no memory of it, and her body will bear no signs. Her mother also will have no memory. They will be completely healed. No one must know what truly took place, so that her marriage can proceed. Sri Ram nodded. Mata continued in a sorrowful tone. A girl is violated through through no fault of her own. Then society rejects her, and her life is destroyed. This is not justice. It is ignorance, Sita, that makes it so. Dispelling ignorance is the only remedy. Such misdeeds have taken place since the beginning of human society. But in the past, it was due to the lust, to a lack of control of one's passions, Sita sighed. This was different. It was for revenge. Those two had a grudge against the family and did this terrible deed out of hatred. They wanted to ruin the daughter to get back at the father. What is this new form of abuse? She was quiet for a few minutes and then continued. I saw that both of those men had young daughters. Guruji was about to curse their families, and the curse would have extended to them as well. The men should receive their due punishment, but the families should be spared. Why should a daughter suffer for the actions of a father? Sri Ram replied in a grave tone. We could not prevent Ravana from setting many new thought patterns that are now spreading through society. Just as man is learning to dominate nature, he will seek to dominate women, and that is the character of the darkened ages that are to come. But that too will pass. We must insert the thought patterns that will secure this world until time moves through the approaching cycles and begins to bring back access to the knowledge that is being lost. Sri Ram continued. It is not just women who will suffer, Sita. When Shakti withdraws herself, it is the whole of the natural world. In the times to come, the separation between mankind and nature will prevent them from seeing the devas and devis who animate this world. They will forget that the rivers and mountains are alive, and even the rivers will forget who they are. So much knowledge will be lost. Men will forget that women are the bearers of Shakti, the force of life, but women will forget this as well. Shakti will patiently wait for the time when she can restore the world. It is for this we have come, Sita, to imbue this remembrance into humanity. When the time is right, in the turning of the cycles, this knowledge will re emerge. We will come back again to this world, you and I, to reawaken the realm of matter. He turned and smiled at her. The mother who was lying on Mata's bed began to stir. Her eyes flickered open and uttered a sound. Mata went to her. After a few minutes, she was able to focus her eyes on Mata and asked in a weak voice, "Where am I?" "You're here at the hermitage," Sita replied. "There was an accident with a chariot, and you were thrown to the ground." "My daughter?" She tried to rise from the bed. "She is right here, not yet recovered, but she will be fine." Sri Ram took his leave so that Mata could devote herself to the wounded bear. That night, Guruji came to check on the condition of mother and daughter. Mata began to apologize for her intervention, but he prevented her. "What you did was right," he humbly replied. "It is up to our Maharaja to set the punishment. I am ever grateful for your care of the mother and daughter. Her father is a close disciple and distraught at what has happened. Without your help, I don't know what would have become of this child. Give them a few more days and they will be ready to go home, and let marriage planning proceed." "Can I move them to Hermitage?" he asked. Mata nodded. I think she realized that the wound she had healed in the young girl's body was about to manifest in her own body. Later that day, Mata was overcome with pain in her womb area and began to bleed. In the evening, Sri Ram came to check on her. When I saw him approach the cottage, I stepped outside and I said to him, "Prabhu, please excuse me for saying this, but Mata has asked that you not see her in her present condition." He replied solemnly, "Soma, this is one time I must override her wishes. I will not permit her to endure this alone. I must be by her side." For a moment, I wondered what to do. I had never disobeyed Mata before. But when I looked up at Sri Ram and felt the love pouring out of him, I realized he would bring comfort and healing to her. I stepped aside and let him enter, saying that I would leave food and water by the door in case she would want it. Sri Ram did not emerge from the cottage until the next morning. All night I had rested outside by the cottage in the event that they would need me. As soon as I heard the door open, I asked him if I could bring food or drink to Mata and to him. "She's sleeping, but I would welcome some food, Soma," he replied with a slight smile. "How is she?" I asked. "The effects have passed through her body. She will now begin to recover." As I served the food to Sri Ram, I asked, "Prabhu, she took on herself this pain to save the life of that young woman. And this is not the first time she has done this. How much can she endure?" For Sita, every life is precious. How many times she would have given up her body to save another? How many times I have had to intervene to keep her here? One day I will not be able to do so. A look of pain crossed my face as he continued. "Soma, even I do not know the extent of what she sacrificed in Lanka. That is her wish, to serve quietly out of public view. The world will never know what she has given to preserve life on this earth." He was quiet for a few minutes and then added, "When she stood in front of the two accused men with her arms outstretched, she set a new precedent of compassion, extending even to those who have committed the most vile of offenses. At that moment, I saw her drawing in many of the negative thought forms from all parts of the world, earth. They entered her body to be consumed and destroyed. I could not stop her. That is my pain, that I cannot take from her the burden of the world that she has assumed." It took several days before Mata could rise from her bed and walk without pain. Sri Ram stayed throughout this time, but when she was able to function normally, he left to return Ayodhya. Before he departed, I heard her say to him, I am no longer able to bear children. He replied, all life on earth are our children. What more do we need? Some days later, as I was serving her first full meal, I repeated what Sri Ram had said about her sacrifice. She smiled and replied, whatever I have done is only a fraction of what he has undertaken. I am but a reflection of his love for this world, and indeed all worlds that hold life. That is how they spoke of one another. They saw in each other the perfection that was there. Their love was as pure and sacred. There really are no words to describe it. We all should aspire to manifest even a small portion of the love they brought to earth. A few weeks after this incident, I had gone to the forest to collect some wood for the kitchen fire. Upon returning, I found Mata deep in conversation with two women I did not recognize. I had not been gone long and wondered how they could have appeared so suddenly. They were seated in the garden, surrounded by flowers. I couldn't help but stop to look at the beautiful sight. Both women seemed older than Mata, in their mature years, and yet a youthful beauty graced their faces. They were dressed as aesthetics, yet something about them indicated otherwise. I went behind the hut to begin the fire for cooking. When it came time for the noon meal and Mata still did not appear, I went around to where they were seated and found them still deeply engaged in conversation. For a few minutes, I debated whether to offer them a meal or not, but I heard Mata's voice inside asking me to please prepare a proper meal for them. I gathered the various vegetables we had picked from the garden in the early morning and mixed them with some herbs we have retrieved from the forest the day before. The scent of the cooking must have drawn them because as soon as the food was ready, they appeared with broad smiles on their faces. I saw from Mata's face that she wanted to serve them, and so I began to busy myself in another part of the kitchen area. Over the years, I had learned to read Mata's every expression. A glance of her eye, a nod of her head was enough to indicate to me her desire. After they had finished, they retreated again to the garden area. They sat there until dark, and then I saw Mata walk into the forest with them, and the two women disappeared. I could not help but inquire about these mysterious women who had suddenly appeared at our hut and then disappeared again into the forest. They were the sages Arundhati and Khyati ma'am. She replied in a surprised tone. Didn't you recognize them? I wonder why you didn't greet them by name. They had come to remind me of a vow I took long ago and to express their pleasure that I had fulfilled that vow. Then I remembered. I had met them before we retreated to the forest. They were the ones who helped Mata understand that her dreams were a vision of the past. I wondered if their visit had anything to do with what had happened a few weeks earlier to the young woman and her mother. As soon as Mata saw this thought enter my mind, she nodded and said, I was only fulfilling the desire of many sages, especially the women. They all felt it was time to withdraw the power of the curse. Too often has it been abused. That day, when I acted as I did, I had not realized I was fulfilling their desire. Sage Arundhati, who lost so many sons to a curse, Kyatima, who, who saw her beloved Narayan be cursed, Sage Ahalya, who herself was cursed, and how many others. This had to come about for them. Ram knew this, and that is why he appeared that day. He understood that new laws would take the place of the sages' curses, and perhaps these laws understood the new. These laws would represent a more just system, not influenced by personal anger or hurt. That is our hope. Then there will be no more curses, Mata. I'm afraid it is not that simple. But over time, the power of curses will diminish until they have no more effect. The power of speech is already declining. What happened that day was the result of the collective aspiration of many. In the future, there will be few who have that command over sound, a command that has the power to manifest. But there will always be some sages hidden from human view who have this ability and this responsibility that is necessary for the prevention, preservation, and guidance of this material realm. That is it for today, friends. And tomorrow we will be hearing the fulfillment of Sita's work. Very interesting story. Friends, if there is anybody who wish to share, please go ahead and you can share.
Hi, Madhu.
Hi, Swapna. Yes, I'm
Today I
waiting
went
for you.
into trance while listening to the story.
Wow.
And you know what? I saw the forest
Mm,
and Sita Ma walking, and there was a small cub walking behind her.
wow.
And it seems she was going into the forest to draw something to show to Love and Kush.
Wow. Mm,
Oh, amazing it was. And also saw a bird which was looking like a crow, but it had some orange, what do you call, crown
that,
sort of a thing, like that
mm-hmm,
feathery crown
mm-hmm,
on it. And I don't know why I saw that, but I was listening to your voice, but I was somewhere else, and there was a lot of pressure, like not too much, but there was pressure near the third eye.
mm,
And oh, beautiful, Madhu.
wow. Wow. That's really, really beautiful. I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, really
It's confirming. Yeah. Wow.
beautiful. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Swapna. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else, friends? Thank you, Ma. Yeah. So, all right, friends, then. And we will all see each other again tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we have Master Ravi's session at 6 a.m. And if you are in India, you can attend the session which is happening in Hindi by me at 2 a.m. Germany time or 5:30 a.m. India time. So tomorrow I'll be speaking about this goddess Katyayini. It's tomorrow. It's her day. So I'll be speaking about her why she has born to this earth plane and what did she do and what is the spiritual meaning behind all of it. So I'll be explaining it. So if you're awake, please do join me. And otherwise, we will see again each other at this time, 6 p.m. Germany time and 9:30 p.m. India time. Till then, have a lovely day, a lovely evening, and a lovely night, friends. Namaste to all.